It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Well, the DNC is underway. They had a introduction party last night.
Y'all can do better than that. Mike DeMoney!
150,000 people are dead. You are funding a genocide. The Harris-Mack administration keeps funding money to Israel.
By the way, everyone there, has a mask on.
Yeah. By the way, the female voice you heard was not Hillary Clinton, to be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was free Palestine, Palestine.
Yeah.
Everyone, every single person pictured had a mask on.
Yeah. So convenient to wear these days, right? Because you care about everyone's health or not showing your face. It's
the unknown voters.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of the silent majority, it's the masked majority, maybe majority of their party. Who knows? The week is going to be really interesting to watch, to see, because the left panders, believing that they can appease, and now this radicalism is fully embedded into the party. It's not even pandering or trying to appease anymore. But still, when they get on a stage like a convention, then you still have to pretend to appease. We hear you. We see you. And I'm waiting for the first to say that on stage in a primetime address. You're going to hear a lot of the Anthony Blinken type two-state solution garbage, but that's not going to go anywhere, because the people on the outside, they're not calling for a two-state solution.
Wow, I'd be surprised if she even mentions Israel.
I don't think she will.
Yeah,
I don't think she
I
will.
would be very surprised. I would think that they would stay away from. What I really expect is a Christmas list of what Santa's going to bring you. And we're all joyful. Because that's the point. When I heard, and it was Walz who twice said when he first became, we're going to be campaign about joy. When he said it twice within a minute, I went, uh-oh, that wasn't an accident that he used the word joy. And you see it now. We're the campaign of joy. Mm-hmm. We're bringing in joy. We're going to bring joy back to this country. They're angry over the other side. They're angry about everything, and everything is going great, and we're going to make things greater by giving you everything, and we're all going to be happy, and there'll be no problems. That's right. What the campaign is going to be. I understand it, too, because there's no other way that they can go.
Well, they can't bring up reality.
Right.
You can't face reality. You have to ignore reality, which means if you're going to ignore reality, you also have to go big. So on those promises that they're going to make on that, on Santa's list, or their list to Santa, or whatever it is, their promises that they're going to make here on stage, my advice is go big. You might as well. Because, it's interesting, you look at it, and I don't know where I would love for pollsters to have something to show where the American people are on spending right now. I mean, as it stands during the week of the convention, of whether or not, because I know that the recent polls have showed that people understand. Yeah, we can't keep spending like this. It really is causing inflation. Because the questions come back. They're already being asked to Kamala Harris. How do you pay for all this? How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? And of course, she bumbled and fumbled the one question over the weekend, because you can't. You're not going to pay for it. they come up with some, I don't know, delusional math to make you think they're going to do it. We're going to go after corporations. We're going to blah, blah, blah. It's going to be everything out of the old playbook. They're getting everybody and everything out of the old playbook. Everybody, you made the point last week, because I had said it during the Republican convention, what you didn't see at the end of it, I said, what you didn't see was the old guard. You didn't see the establishment Republicans up there on stage in prime time. You saw basically the new generation of the Republican Party, the future of the Republican Party, hopefully. And you made the point, great point last week, in they're putting everybody from the old generation up there. It's all hands on deck.
It's everybody who is up there is the old establishment who forced Joe Biden out.
Yep.
And, when Maureen Dowd wrote that column in the New York Times, she was blunt.
Yeah.
It was a coup. And he was
right.
forced out, basically threatened, you're not going to get any campaign money. All the campaign money stops. So you either give it to us or you lose so big that your legacy, any legacy you thought you were going to have, is going to be destroyed. That's what actually happened.
Right, yeah.
And she said, yes, it was a coup. Yes, they said to hell with 14 million Democrat votes. But the Democrats are happy about that. The Democratic voters are happy. They don't care if their vote doesn't count.
Right.
And they talked about, and Maureen Dowd brought up the fact that everybody's going to pretend to be friendly here, but nobody is, because there are people inside the Democratic Party that are furious. And everybody's angry at each other. And she said, look, the reason Obama held out and other people held out, they didn't want Kamala Harris. They were hoping somebody else would join in. Kamala Harris is not looked upon actually inside the Democrat Party as the savior. The media, they've promoted her as such. It's the same thing with, trying to hide what they did to Biden by saying, greatest president ever, Mount Rushmore kind of president.
Yeah. By the way, we can introduce this, too, speaking of Joe Biden and Obama. Never underestimate the ability of Joe Biden to F things up, which is a quote attributed to Obama. Now, remember how this all went down from the get-go, from the first moment. In fact, in his note that clearly somebody else wrote for him when he announced that he was not going to be running, he endorsed her in that moment. And then the story got out that he was doing that to spite the Obamas because they don't get along, the Bidens and the Obamas don't. The Biden doesn't get along with Obama, knowing that eventually everybody in the party would have to come around. And I said it that week. I said, look, George Clooney and Obama are going to have to get on board this week. George Clooney's more influential than Obama. We all know that. They're all going to have to get on board by the end of the week in order to make this thing happen. And they saw that. That was forming then, and it started with Joe Biden's endorsement right out of the gate. He knew what he was doing. Okay, I'll do this, but I'm going to force all of you to endorse her. And he did.
Right. But all of the celebratory, she is exactly the one, the anointed one. It's all BS. It's all BS and everything. And I think it was Britt Hume said it, that it's just rally. It's just, basically rally relief.
Right.
It's not Biden. Nobody really likes Kamala Harris up there. They don't think she's a great candidate. It's just there was nowhere else to go, so we have to jump behind it. And that came from Maureen Dowd.
Right.
That comes from a liberal who knows these people. She knows them personally.
Right.
And so when you see all of that, it's like, what's going to happen now? The pro-Hamas protests Reading here from Kimberly Strassel. She wrote a great column on it. Say, now that public opinion has soured on the left's street blockades, crime, and campus takeovers, the Biden administration wants it both ways. It was so slow to condemn this spring campus and city protest, initially hoping it would stay above the fray. And when President Biden finally did condemn violent protest, even as he claims he still steadfastly supports Israel, his team kept working to pacify those shouting Genocide Joe and taking over the campus property. It halted certain weapons to Israel, leveled sanctions on Israeli groups and individuals, and pressured Jerusalem for a ceasefire. The summer drama over Biden's age and the party nominee did at least divert attention away from the split in the party, but enraged leftists have not gone anywhere, as evidenced by their meltdown over Kamala Harris's consideration of Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro as a running mate. She ducked that confrontation by going with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Yet what Democrats continue to fail to appreciate is that this crowd won't be appeased by anything less than full capitulation. That includes an end to any support for Israel.
Yep.
See, this is a whole thing of this is why I don't think she'll mention it, that they don't want anybody to mention Israel because they want to have it both ways. And you're talking to a group of people that want to be anti-Israel.
Well, and you may be right across the board, not just her, because I don't believe she will, but it may be the entire week.
Yeah.
The rule, don't bring up Israel.
And that includes any support for Israel. For a sense of unity in the party, see the chaotic videos from a Wednesday night rally by New York Democrats in advance of next week's convention. Its after party was besieged by anti-Israeli mob intent on mayhem. Many carried placards, reading "Kamala equal genocide." The coalition to march on the DNC boasts 150 groups, including Black Lives Matter and Students for Justice in Palestine. It's already coordinating buses of protesters into Chicago. It's asking for donations for medical kits and other supplies to ensure that the march on the DNC coalition can withstand the repression of the Chicago police. Other groups coming in agitate for direct action that goes well beyond marching. A recent Behind Enemy Lines post reads, now that the butchers of Gaza are coming to Chicago, that's the Democratic Party. It's time to take this political battle into high gear, which involves getting into the streets to actually shut down Genocide Joe and Killer Kamala.
Yeah, some of them were calling her Bombala.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One protest is planned for outside the Israeli consulate, and the poster reads, "Make it great like 68," a reference to the violence outside that year's Democratic convention in Chicago. But understand the reason they didn't protest the Republicans is because the Republicans are an absolute no.
Right. Yeah, you're not going to change anything.
Right.
They believe they'll change the party here.
The entire reason is
the Democrats.
The reason is here, and we've talked about, Biden, whatever. He's an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
The administration, Kamala Harris, Walz, Biden, the Democratic Party, they hate Jews.
Yep.
They know they can't convince the American public. And so they decided to play it both ways. We stand for Israel, but Israel, stop the genocide. Shut up. You said it day one. There is no middle ground here.
Yep.
You're either pro-Western democracy or you're not.
That's
and
it.
It's interesting that the party that talks about democracy is the one that has mainstreamed pro-terrorist views and Jewish hatred. Just amazing. To the point, the New York Times article that we read.
Yep.
Same thing. And Democrats, they talked about it the whole time. They can't pick Josh Shapiro. Doesn't matter if he holds the same opinions as everybody else. You can't have a Jew in the executive branch.
Right.
It's that simple. The party, the voters will not stand for it. This is all part of the stinking, filthy identity politics racism that's mainstream in the Democratic Party. And in the last year, they just said, let's add Jews to the list.
And now it's full on proudly promoting their hatred.
Yep. Amazing. You think about
It was bound to get to this.
You think about the anti-Jewish hatred, the misogyny that exists in the radical transgender movement, and you sit there and you say, Trump said the other day, how can Jews, and I'll add, how can women support the Democratic Party after their absolute misogyny, as we've talked about, in the radical transgender movement? It's really amazing.
The Biden-Harris administration is legally trying to end women's sports.
Yeah.
They're fighting. They're suing to end women's sports.
It's just...
There's no way around that fact.
There isn't. And there's no way around the fact that they're pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, they've mainstreamed Jewish hatred in this country.
Right. And if you think they care about you being underwater every month and not being able to make ends meet, sorry, you have no idea who they are. Joy isn't going to pay your rent.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Minor month-over-month adjustments were recorded in USDA's August look at meat production and prices for this year. But as World Agricultural Outlook Board Chair Mark Jekanowski indicates,
the overall story hasn't changed much from last month and several of the previous months going back a while.
Reflected in trends such as higher slaughter rates for cattle and lower slaughter rates for hogs, growing broiler production, and strong demand to boost prices for steers and broilers year over year. Turning to U.S. meat trade,
the main change is in terms of pork exports. We're seeing a lot of competition in pork export markets, especially from Brazil, and that's starting to show up in relative weakness in U.S. pork exports, which we reduced this month by 125 million pounds.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So here we go. Biden will speak tonight.
It won't be this morning.
It won't be this morning. We said 7 a.m. Jill Biden will speak.
Yeah.
Mayor Brandon will speak.
Yeah.
Mayor Johnson.
Yeah.
Illinois Governor Pritzker, former President Clinton. Okay. No, wait a minute. It's Hillary Clinton tonight, right?
I thought Bill was Wednesday and Hillary was tonight. Is it Bill
Hillary
tonight?
Yeah, they just say Pritzker. Okay, so definitely is Pritzker, Brandon, Johnson, Jill Biden, and Joe Biden. When you think about it, all the failures of the Democratic Party on Monday night.
Yeah.
The failure of Illinois, the failure of Chicago, the failure of the Harris-Biden, the leader of the failure of the Harris-Biden administration. Wow, I'm just like, to loser Monday at the DNC. And it says Hill.com, former President Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will each deliver primetime addresses to the convention per organizers. Former President Obama is scheduled to speak on Tuesday. So there you go. Man, just amazing.
Well, again, it's the establishment.
Yeah, it's all establishment.
It's all hands on deck.
Yep.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
Tonight Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, some audio here. This was Fox News. Brit Hume, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, Brit Hume, also Karl Rove, and Brett Baer at the convention last night talking about it.
Kamala Harris is about as vulnerable a candidate that you could think of, short of Joe Biden himself. And his campaign should have no trouble. I mean, she's a self-described radical. Not only did she cast the votes that Carl described, she's had issue positions on a range of issues that she's never publicly repudiated. There have been leaks from her campaign suggesting that she's moved away from those positions. But that ought not to be enough. Trump himself, the media is not going to do this job, or at least it's shown no disposition to do the job of taking a really hard look at her record. It's up to the Trump campaign. You can do it to some extent with ads, and I'm sure they will, but it would certainly help the Trump campaign if the candidate himself was prepared with specificity to pinpoint these issues where Harris has positions that cannot possibly command a majority.
So do you think that the plan is, quickly here, Carl, to stick to joy, to stick to vague, to not get specific, especially after that launch on Friday?
Yeah, my sense is, first of all, we don't know a lot about her. She may be the vice president for 4 years, but how many people know that, there are going to be a lot of people at the end of this 4 days that are going to know she started out working at McDonald's. They're going to humanize her. They're going to tell her story, and that's really important for no matter how well we in the political side of things think the American people know about a prospective candidate. It's the human touches that matter at a convention that you get introduced. I mean, 1988, George H.W. Bush, World War II pilot. 2000, this was a big concern we had. How do you depict George Bush as the effective governor of Texas who was able to work with Republicans and Democrats? Tomorrow night and the night after, we're going to particularly hear about her as her life story.
Yeah.
There you go. And, you could tell Brit Hume not happy with the way Trump's been campaigning. As I said over the weekend, I received more from Trump fans, more negative emails about how he has been at the last rally, that he can't seem to focus. My point is simply none of it's stuck. Nobody's really broadcasting. Nobody's really watching the Trump rallies, and none of it's stuck by the end of the day. But you're right. I believe he needs to focus more. He has limited the damage he has done, and therefore I believe that's a victory every day, because every single day on the defensive has been the Harris campaign.
Yeah.
Every single day. And after the rollout on Friday, it was just a disaster for them. So Trump still has time to do it. I think it's great that he brought in Tulsi Gabbard to be, to focus him in on the debate. I heard someone say the other day, well, was it John Sununu or somebody? Trump's a great debater. I went, no, he's not. He's okay. But he's not he was okay in the last debate because Biden was horrible.
Yeah, by comparison. Yeah.
But no, you can hit specifics, as we've said before.
Right.
You can go point by point by point. It's not that hard.
No, it isn't.
And but I've got more complaints, even on the show tonight, when I said, look, he's not, because I will, believe me, have you been listening for the last 8 years? 9 years since Trump's been in it?
8 days.
We have no problem criticizing Trump. As I said, though, you can only change a person so much. They are who they are. What you can do is limit the damage. He's limited the damage that and I say limited the damage because the mainstream media and conservatives aren't pounding on him for a particular story. I've heard the generalized stuff. Trump's got to focus more. That doesn't mean anything to the average independent voter.
Right.
And so, you need to pound again inflation, and I think Brit Hume said that another time. He goes, you want to vote for the people that gave you the inflation? End of story. That's all you got to do.
Well,
she may have worked at McDonald's. She was part of the administration to cause the inflation. She would cause more.
Yep. Here's the thing. Let's make the impossibler even more impossibler. Because the approach should be act as if those people that you're trying to reach, the undecided voters, the independent, that you're not your loyal base. Those that you're trying to reach and convince act as if they've never heard your name. Now, I put that impossibler thing out there because Trump puts his name on everything, and he's a well-known person and has been a global household name for decades. So that's a hard task, except it's what you do in introducing the ideas, because there are many people that don't understand and don't know his history of espousing his views on talk shows for decades didn't follow along then. They knew the billionaire thing. They knew the real estate thing. They knew the TV thing. They knew all of these other things, but didn't know those things. But also, if you are, and I would put it this way, not that I expect him to convert millions and millions of Democrats. It would be great if he did. I mean, rank and file voters. But if you look at some of the Democrats, some of the liberals who have come out or former liberals maybe, Michael Rappaport, the actor, who's just now kind of coming around in recent months to the idea that he was wrong about Trump and believed the lies. So my point would be, if during the first Trump presidency, all you paid attention to was what the liberal media was feeding you, and this is why I asked this question weeks ago, how much do you actually know? What are you repeating what people told you? Are you repeating headlines? Are you repeating false stories that the media wrote about things like Charlottesville, where they didn't include the entire quote? Are you repeating those things because people in your circle are doing that, because people at work, because people in your family are doing that? How much do you actually know? Go back to Barry Weiss when she wrote, I was wrong about Trump. And Trump was right on these things. That to me is, again, the approach that you have to have, that people don't know, just assume they don't know who you are, assume they don't know what you believe, and you really have to reach them in a way that is convincing. And you have to go back and say, this is what we did during my first term, and we can get back to doing that. We just need to be given the chance,
right? And
this is how you need to vote. And it's you and I talked about the concise nature of an ad, and I said a few weeks ago, every campaign stop, every speech, every interview, every answer to every question should be as trimmed down, and I don't mean necessarily short, but zero fat in how straight it is on, just like an ad, just like your ads are. They're edited down, straight to the facts, straight on point every single time. You're not going to be perfect, but that's what you aim for every time. And when you're on the issues, then no one can defeat.
Well, what I think is happening is we're getting close to the election, and it's close. And Trump supporters are like, this is the last chance.
Yeah, right.
Wasn't like he's new and we're hoping for an upset.
Well, they feel like I feel maybe that we're at this crossroads, and that if we don't, if the Republican Party doesn't win this, not that I have 100% confidence that they'll fix everything, but it's the best shot that we have when we're at this crossroads. Because if we don't and we vote the other way as a nation, then I don't believe it'll be fixed in our lifetime.
And I think most Trump supporters understand what works for him and what doesn't work.
Right.
And when they see him going back to what they don't believe doesn't work, even if it doesn't go viral by the end of the day, they're still like, he doesn't get it.
Right.
He doesn't get it. Right. He doesn't get it. Why doesn't he get it? Just pound on it. This is should be the easiest election ever to win. Now, I did see, I think it was John Sununu say, well, if it was any other Republican, they'd be up by 10 on Harris. I don't know if that's the case.
I don't know if that's the case.
I can't say that. I don't know. I think that because Trump being in has really brought to independents' attention. You think about it. What has convinced people like Barry Weiss and Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi and Jonathan Turley, maybe not to vote for him, but understanding the problems of the Democrats and what's his name? I can't think of the other lawyer's name. Dershowitz. What has caused their change? Rappaport. What has caused their change? It has so much of it has been the weaponization of government, the censoring of what they saw, happening. So
combined with the lawfare and everything else,
the lawfare, the
on.
Russia collusion hoax. Those were attacks, and they were personal attacks on Trump. They were completely false and made up, by the Democratic Party. So,
but it's a massive amount of collective people in power that are all acting in that way. It is a culture that absolutely must be stopped at that level in government.
And so they view it as so serious, and they understand what Trump has gone through. But look, win, and then you have a chance.
Yeah.
Don't just bitch.
Yeah.
Win.
Exactly.
Win. I don't care. This, and that's what I've got the most over more than I've ever gotten since 2016.
Well, because we know we've seen it. He's the guy who stood up after nearly being assassinated and screamed, "Fight." We know that he's got that in him. Don't do the complaining. Don't do the attacks and everything else and engaging in their, in everything that they're doing in their rabbit holes. Be that man that everybody believes you are and that you showed to be on that day, that you're unafraid, that you don't flinch. Because when you're complaining about the other side in those ways, you're using their tactics. And people look at that and say, that's not strength.
And I still don't, I was shocked by the number because I think he's done okay knowing how bad he has screwed up in the past and been his own worst enemy. I think he's done okay. And at the end of the day, when he's not the story, that's a win for him. And right now, everything, but you look, that win streak may come to an end this week because she'll have a bump because of everything going on. And he may be watching and him on social media. And so, but since she picked Waltz, every day has been a Trump campaign victory. Friday helped it again. You're getting a ton of gifts. Don't blow it. And I think that's what a lot of Trump supporters are saying. Don't blow it. Everything right now is moving in your way. You have enough time to define her. Spend every second defining her and how you don't. I saw someone, Trump's got to tell specifically what he's going to do. No, he doesn't.
Right.
Because people already know that he was successful. The details with Trump don't matter as much as they do with Harris.
Right.
I believe. Just get out there and say, you want the economy like we had? We'll get you back there. She's not going to get you there.
Exactly.
Look, in fact, let me quickly play just very quickly. No, I don't have time. Maybe we do after the break. 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I thought that Scott Jennings on CNN last night or yesterday afternoon made it the perfect point for Trump. Here we go.
All right.
He's in the fight of his life. Independents are going to decide. They were with him. Now she's in the race. They're wavering. And the way to get them back is very clear. Hey, if you're mad about inflation, maybe we don't put the people back in charge who caused it. That's the message. Print it, frame it, hang it in the Louvre. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, seriously. As you mentioned before the break, and maybe we'll expand on that this week a few times, Trump doesn't have to get into the details of, okay, here's my detailed plan. It's already proven. He's already done it. All he needs to say is, hey, we did it before, we'll do it again. If you liked your economy and your financial situation during my time as president leading up to COVID, let's get back to doing that. They caused the inflation. Let's get them out of office. There you go. It's a 1-2 punch. You want the border secure? You know I'm going to do it. You know she's not going to do it.
You don't need to know my plan on the border. You know what it is.
Yeah. Everybody railed against my plan, and now everybody's begging for my plan.
Right.
We'll do it.
And so you bring up the flip-flopping of the campaign. We don't even know where she stands because she doesn't want you to know where she stands.
Right.
But you do it. You can do it all on issues. But it's very simple, and there aren't a lot of things. There's inflation. There's the border. There's national security. There's crime in the city.
Yep.
And so you really can get away arguing just those four things.
Right.
And again, if people are, like I said, I got more people upset than I've ever got before that Trump isn't focused. Well, maybe 20 minutes should be the time limit of his speeches, or 25 minutes
or
instead of an hour.
Maybe when I said you don't have to make it as short as a commercial, maybe you do.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.